What to expect in the EB5 timeline, and what unexpected delays come up for clients and how to best prepare for everything. Hi again, everybody. My name is Charles Rather. I'm the managing partner at Amlaw Group, where for over 15 years, we have been helping clients, business people, entrepreneurs, investors such as yourselves make a transition to the US in the most successful and efficient and effective way possible. So today I want to talk about the EB5 timeline. How long is it? Can we make it shorter? And what to expect. So if you've watched some of my other recent videos on our channel, you'll see that I've always been a proponent of EB5, and I'm becoming more of a proponent of it lately, just because when you look at some of the alternatives that are out there, unless, again, you qualify for maybe an EB1A or some other very niche categories that might give you a green card, I think the EB5 is really probably the best way to go right now, based on timing, reliability, and other factors. Now, we're going to talk about timing today. What to expect with the EB5? Well, first of all, we have to get your case ready. So how long that takes to get your case ready really varies. It varies, your country of origin. And I'm not going to say people from certain countries work faster than people from other countries. But I would say if you're from a North American, Western European country, generally, this is a very broad generalization, it's probably a little bit easier just because the tax systems are more advanced and more rigorous and tax controls, and it's less of a cash economy, and transactions are done almost exclusively through bank accounts, and so it's just easier to trace and track stuff. If you're coming from a market where cash is king, a lot of transactions are still done in cash, you save your money in cash, stuff like that, that can sometimes delay the process just because there's more work for us to do to prepare the documentation. But again, really, it's a case-by-case situation. Depends on the individual client, how organized they are, how much of their documentation they saved, all that other stuff. I would say on average, I don't know what other law firms really say in terms of their processing times to prepare petitions. I'm kind of curious what my competitors might say, but in full disclosure to you guys, I would say on average, it takes probably 2 to 3 months to get everything together from the time we start until the time we file. Some cases certainly can take more time. I mean, we've had clients over a year that took, and believe me, that was not fun for us and it wasn't fun for the client. But I would say on average, you're probably looking 3 to 4 months. We've had cases where we had to get stuff ready in 2 weeks or less. But again, when you take into account the time that's required to make the translations into English and other stuff, I think 3 to 4 months is a good average for getting everything ready and then filing it. Once we file it, then what happens? Well, there's two options. If you're in the US and you want to stay here while your case is being reviewed, then we would file at the time of the filing, presuming you've been here already 90 days, we would file the adjustment of status. For the adjustment of status, you've got to wait about anywhere between 4 and 6 months to get your work authorization and to get your advanced parole that allows you to travel. They're getting better with that on the turnaround, and so in the past it was more like 6 to 8 months, then it kind of went down to 5, now it's down to 4, and quite honestly, in many cases, they're turning those documents around in less than 4 months. So during that time, until you get those documents, you can't leave the country and you cannot work. So we file, maybe 3 or 4 months, we get stuff ready. Then we file, adjustment of status. If we're going to do that, it might take you 3 or 4 months to get your documentation. And then once you get the work authorization and the travel advance parole, you're free to leave if you want, come back, work, and basically live like a green card holder until you get the approval. If you don't want to do adjustment of status, you're overseas, then you're fine. You can stay overseas. If you have a tourist visa, you can come travel to the US, and we would just wait until the approval comes. Now, clients sometimes say, can I come to the US after I filed my EB5? Yes, you certainly can. Are they going to ask questions at the border? They might. From my experience, I honestly, in doing this 15 years, I don't recall any client mentioning where the officer in the airport mentioned something about their pending EB5 case. So I don't think that's something that they readily see or pay attention to. Now, if your tourist visa expires after you filed your case, but before you get the case approval, there you might have problems renewing the tourist visa. A lot depends on your travel history, your country of origin, how much time you spent in the US before. We work a lot with clients from Eastern Europe, Russia, and that region. They, especially recently, are having increased problems with renewing tourist visas. due to a number of factors. And so in many cases, they're denying renewals of tourist visas while the EB-5 is pending. But again, that doesn't apply to everybody, and it's subject to a lot of factors. Once we get the approval, now if you watch some of our other videos, we talk about how fast approvals are coming. I'm a big supporter of rural projects. You can get approvals in 3-6 months, maybe 12 at the most. So let's say you wait 6 months, you get the approval. At that point, then, if you're here in the U.S. on adjustment of status, your case will just be passed on. They will get notification that, hey, congratulations, your EB-5 was approved. And so that will trigger the office to then work on issuing your green card. How quickly will they issue your green card here in the U.S. if you're here on adjustment? Depends on a lot of factors, and it's hard for me to say. Again, they're getting better at it. I would say on average, a lot depends on the category too, but if we're talking EB-5, I'd say 6 months, maybe 6 to 9 months on average for you to get the actual green card. Some other visa categories, they're issuing those green cards in 2 to 3 months. And sometimes that happens for our EB-5 clients, to be quite honest. But I would say 6 to 9 months, maybe a little bit longer. If you're overseas waiting for a consular interview, then after you get the approval, there's some additional steps you have to go through with the National Visa Center, preparing some extra forms. And then once they collect everything, they'll send your case to the embassy where you'll get in line for an available interview. How long it takes to get the interview really depends on the country and how busy the consulate is. But if I make a very broad generalization, I would say you should count on about a year. So from the moment you get the approval of the 526 till they call you in for an interview overseas, on average, a year. Canada is terrible right now. We've had a client that's been waiting almost 2 years for her interview, for her EB-5 interview in Canada. It's terrible there. Other countries, fortunately, are not so bad. And it just really depends on the embassy and how quickly they can move things. But I would say general rule of thumb is about a year. Once you get your temporary green card, it's valid for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, we file your 829 to get your permanent green card. 829s are taking a long time right now too, maybe 3 years, 3 to 4 years, I think on average. But again, that's not that important because you have your conditional green card. The validity will be extended while you're waiting for your 829. So there's really no day-to-day impact on your life while you're waiting for the 829. And then again, the return of the funds, getting your money back from the project and stuff like that, that's also a whole different vector that depends on the terms of the investment that you made. But as you probably know, the investment cycle is becoming much shorter. USCIS has recently said the money has to be in the project only as little as 2 years. So returning the funds is generally a faster undertaking these days. But again, that's really something that's totally separate for the most part from the immigration side of things. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of what the EB-5 timing involves. If you're interested in EB-5, reach out to us. We have a great guide overview on what to look for when you're doing EB-5. And like I said, we've been doing this over 15 years, and we'd be very honored to help you and your family making your transition to the U.S. with EB-5 or any other appropriate program for you.